In the lead up to our historic COVID shortened Michigan and Big Ten football seasons, I'm going to take a short detour from my examination of the Maize and Blues position groups and ask two questions. Is Harbaugh nepotism ruining our Michigan football program? And also, what happened to the Wheatleys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76 Sports. First of all, please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. Well, as I mentioned in the intro, we're going to take a slight detour and ask the question, is Harbaugh nepotism ruining our Michigan football program? But before we dive into that, I want to thank everyone who has subbed since we got word that they're going to go forward with the 8-game season. And I also want to encourage anyone who views this. Right now, I'm right in the 330 sub range. And the next milestone is 400. So if you watch this, these videos tend to do pretty well. Hey, push me up to the 400 mark. Click that subscribe button, please. It's free, as are the likes and the shares. It's all free. So I'm gonna, before we get to this whole issue of Harbaugh nepotism and where that came from and whether or not that actually exists, I'm going to start with this. In addition to this being a Michigan football house and a Michael Jordan house and a bit of a Jim Rome house, as some of you might have noticed, this is also a Jerry Seinfeld house. And pictures of Kramer have gradually crept into my content for comedic purposes. And sports coverage and content is all about having fun. That's one of the main things I learned from the Pimp in the Box, Van Smack, Jim Rome. And so I can think back to my very first encounter with the Jerry Seinfeld show. I was in my room in the back of our home on Buffalo's east side. It was a Thursday night, and I heard my brother Amal laughing and wailing in the living room, and of course I had to go out and see what my older brother was laughing about, and lo and behold, he was laughing at the Jerry Seinfeld show. And because he started watching it, I started watching it as well. And I can recall my first episode, the one that I really, really remember, was the parking spot episode where George was trying to back in and the guy Mike was trying to go frontwards in, and then it caused a whole crowd to gather outside of Jerry's apartment and vice versa. So I was hooked ever since then. But two of my favorite characters from the show are Kramer and Newman, and I've always enjoyed their little capers and their little side stories and the things they mischievously get into. And so one of my favorite episodes regarding Newman and Kramer was the record store episode where they came up with the idea of getting old records together and then taking them to the flea market or the record store, whatever, to try to make a fortune. Of course, they tried that again with recycle bottles and cans on Mother's Day. But in this particular episode, they gathered up these records, took them to the record store, and the store owner took a look at their collection and he lowballed them and he gave them a low price, to which they were both disappointed over. And then Kramer leaned in and started saying things about the store owner who was sitting there reading his newspaper, and Newman started echoing the things that Kramer was saying, and they were insults towards the store owner. And then gradually the store owner got so fed up that he leapt over the counter and started trying to beat up Newman. So me and one of my most loyal subscribers here, Gary, and by the way, I have two subscribers who are very, very loyal, Ashwin and Gary. So I want to thank you guys. But Gary gives very, very hot takes in the spirit of Jim Rome. Have a take, but don't suck. Gary's takes don't suck. And if you read Gary's takes, Gary's not a believer in old khaki pants, Jimmy. And under my last video about our running back, our stable of running backs for the 2020 year, in the comment section, Gary basically said, our stable, our running game over the last couple of years has been flushed down the toilet because Jimmy has moved his son Jay into the running backs coach position. And then Gary went on this rant about Jay making, six figures and so on, et cetera, et cetera. And so I thought about it and I said, that's video worthy. And so, but, this is not unusual. You have your football families. There's the Mannings and the Morris and the Ryans and the Shanahans and the Shulas. And there's also the Harbaughs, which we have now in Ann Arbor. And one could argue that the Harbaughs are one of the first families in Ann Arbor, going back to the 70s when Jack got hired by Bo. So I thought I'd do a little analysis based upon Gary's strong takes. I thought I'd do a little bit of an analysis of Jay Harbaugh, and we could talk about whether or not he's qualified to be our running backs coach, and if he's qualified to receive that six-figure salary. So let's take a quick look at Jay and his resume, and whether or not he's qualified, in our opinion, because we're just the fans, but whether or not he's qualified to hold those positions, and if this Harbaugh nepotism is holding back our maize and blue. Jay Harbaugh is in his sixth season with U of M and his fourth as the team's running backs coach in 2020. He was an assistant special teams coach for 4 seasons from 2015 to 2019 before being named special teams coordinator on January 17th, 2020. In his first 2 years with the program, Harbaugh worked as a tight ends coach in addition to his duties on special teams. He began coaching the running backs group prior to the 2017 season. Overall, Harbaugh has coached 4 backs and tight ends to 5 all Big Ten honors, including 3 first team honors. He coached Michigan's most accomplished tight end, Jake Butt, during the 2015 and 16 seasons. Butt became Michigan's all-time leader in tight end receptions with 138 and yardage with 1,646, scoring 7 of his 11 career touchdowns under Harbaugh's guidance. Butt won 2 Qualic Clark Tight End of the Year awards as the Big Ten's best tight end, was a consensus first team All-American both years, and won the 2016 John Mackey Award as the nation's top tight end. Taking over the running backs room in 2017, Harbaugh helped lead a Michigan ground attack that included 3 running backs who averaged 5 yards per carry or better, and each ran for over 500 yards for the first time since 1991. Karan Higdon was a Maxwell Award and Doak Walker Award semifinalist in 2018, as well as a first-team All-Big Ten selection. He became U of M's first 1,000-yard back since 2011 and finished his career ranked among Michigan's top 15 all-time in rushing yards and touchdowns. According to Pro Football Focus College, Higdon and Chris Evans combined to force 70 missed tackles throughout the season, leading to over 1,000 yards after contact. In 2019, Harbaugh saw running backs Zach Charbonnet and Hassan Haskins combine for more than 1,300 yards and 15 touchdowns, including a freshman record 11 scores from Charbonnet. Haskins earned all Big Ten honorable mention honors, and Charbonnet's 726 yards on the ground were the third most by any freshman in Michigan history, and his four multi-touchdown games were a freshman record as well. In the area of special teams, Harbaugh has coached a top 20 NCAA ranked kickoff average unit in 3 of 5 seasons, including the top ranked unit in 2017, and a top 12 kick return unit twice, 3rd in 2015 and 11th in 2019. He has helped another 8 Wolverine specialists attain 14 more all Big Ten honors. Punter Will Hart was named a second-team All-American by Sports Illustrated in 2018, ranked as a Ray Guy Award semifinalist, and also won the Big Ten's Edelman Fields Punter of the Year award. Kicker Quinn Nordin owns several distance records at Michigan and ranks top 5 in all-time field goals made with 39. Donovan Peoples-Jones was a freshman All-American punt returner in 2017, and Jabril Peppers was the number 5 ranked individual return man in the nation in 2016. Khalik Hudson blocked 5 punts during his career, a Michigan record. Prior to arriving in Ann Arbor, Harbaugh spent 3 seasons working for the Baltimore Ravens, including the 2014 season as an offensive quality control coach, where his work focused on statistical analysis, self-scouting reports, and breakdowns of opposing defenses. In 2014, the Ravens posted a record of 11-7, including a wild card playoff game win on the road at Pittsburgh. The offense averaged 25.6 points per game, 8th in the NFL, and 364.9 yards per game, which was 12th in the NFL. His previous work included working with the video staff and the weight room staff. He was part of the coaching staff that won Super Bowl. I'm bad at reading these Roman numerals. Under his uncle, John Harbaugh. So that was the Harbaugh Bowl, where the Harbaugh brothers matched up against one another. So it was really the Harbaugh Bowl because Jay was on John's staff. So it's Super Bowl XL 5. Maybe that's Super Bowl 57. I think it's 57. Anyway. Oh, by the way, it's Super Bowl 47. Harbaugh spent 4 seasons as an undergraduate assistant at Oregon State under head coach Mike Riley. He performed a number of duties for the Beavers during his time in Corvallis and worked with the special teams units for all 4 seasons. The Beavers played in 2 bowls during Harbaugh's tenure, 2008 to 2011, including a win in the 2008 Sun Bowl. He also interned for the San Francisco 49ers in the scouting department during the summer of 2011. A native of San Diego, California, Harbaugh earned a bachelor's degree in sociology from Oregon State University. Jay Harbaugh is the son of U of M head coach Jim Harbaugh. He lives in Ann Arbor with his wife Brittany and their son Jacob. So actually, the first time I'd ever heard or known of Jay Harbaugh was in one of the Michigan football programs. Prior to COVID, I was making regular trips up to Ann Arbor for at least one game, and this is from Jimmy's inaugural 2015 season, and this was the Northwestern game, which we won that day. There was a lot of optimism as we launched into that 2015 season. That was a fun season, by the way. And I remember one of the plays of that Northwestern game was the J. Hugh Chesson punt return. And I think Jabril Peppers set the edge there and allowed J.U. to run that one back. I was sitting behind the south end zone, so I could see J.U. turn the corner and turn it upfield. And anyway, so I have a collection of these programs, and of course, they tell you the players. They have pictures of the players in their suits. And I was looking at this last night, and wow, I can't believe it's hard to imagine this was only about 5 years ago. There are players in here like Taco Charlton and Amara Darboh and who else? Who else is in here? Graham Glasgow and Jordan Glasgow, Ryan Glasgow, Ben Gideon. Who else we got here? Ty Isaac, Maurice Hurst, Tyree Kennel, Eric Magnuson, Mike McCrary, Jordan Lewis, Blake O'Neal, Grant Perry was a freshman that year. Who else? Delano Hill. Karan Higdon was a freshman that year. Chase Winovich was a freshman that year. Jake Rudock, old Khaki Pants' first transfer quarterback. Davion Smith, Channing Stribling, Wilton Spate, who's probably my favorite quarterback of all the Harbaugh quarterbacks. Of course, Jimmy didn't recruit him. Brady Hoke recruited him. Jared Wangler, Tyrone Wheatley, who's going to come up later in this video. I'm sorry, Tyrone Wheatley Jr. Chris Wormley. And so, this was a transition from Brady Hoke's players into Jimmy's players, and a lot of these players were on the Revenge Tour team which I think was one of Jim's top two teams, the other being the 2016 team, the J.T. Barrett first down team. In any case, in these books, they show the players, but they also show, of course, Jimmy, or Old Khaki Pants. He gets a feature. And then they run down his coaching staff. And this was the first time I saw, who was on that staff that year? Tim Drevno was the offensive coordinator. DJ Durkin, defensive coordinator. John Baxter was the special teams coordinator. Jed Fish, passing game coordinator, quarterbacks, wide receivers. Greg Jackson played safety on that Super Bowl 25 New York Giant team that beat my Buffalo Bills. He was on that staff as the secondary coach. Greg Madison was the defensive line coach. Jim kept him from Brady's staff. And there's Jay Harbaugh, who that year was the tight ends coach and the special teams coach. When I looked at this picture, it was kind of hard for me to believe. I didn't know if that was one of Jim's brothers or or if that was his son, because he was older, and I knew Jim had a younger family and a younger wife, but he kind of looks like Jim and he kind of doesn't. He's got the reddish brown beard, looks more like a colonial Minuteman, and so early on, he was the tight ends coach and the assistant special teams coach. And so, Tyrone Wheatley was also on that staff, along with Mike Zordich and a guy named Kevin Tolbert, who was the strength and conditioning coach. And by the way, Tyrone Wheatley was the running backs coach. I guess we're going to come back to that. That's the whole basis of this video. So prior to that trip down memory lane, we heard of we got a read through of Jay's football pedigree, and it seems as though from that bio that was written up on the M Go Blue website, Jay's got a football pedigree. He was born into a football family. Of course, we know Jack was an assistant at Michigan, and then he went out to Stanford, and of course he was coaching even before he took on that job. Jimmy played football at Michigan. He played quarterback in the NFL. He became a quarterback's coach in the NFL. And then Jimmy went on to college to coach at University of San Diego and then Stanford before going to the 49ers and before coming to Ann Arbor. His uncle John played some college ball and then eventually became an NFL head coach. Won the Super Bowl in the Harbaugh Bowl against Jimmy. And according to his bio, Jay was on that staff for the Baltimore Ravens when they won against the 49ers. So Jay has a football pedigree. I mean, he was born into football. He knows football. He's been immersed in football his entire life. The one thing I didn't see from that bio, though, on the MGO Blue website, is if Jay actually played at one point. But we know that there are a lot of coaches who didn't necessarily play, but went on to become solid coaches themselves. So that's Jay's pedigree. And according to his resume, the argument could be made that even though this might be a bit of Harbaugh nepotism, the argument could be made that he's qualified to be our running backs coach and, the coach of our special teams. And he's qualified to command his 6-figure salary. So, well, let me know what you guys think in the comments section below about Jay and whether or not he's qualified to be our running backs coach and our special teams coach, and whether or not he was qualified to have held the tight end coach position in the past. So if you haven't, please like this video. The likes are free and they help my videos and my channel ascend in YouTube's algorithm. So oftentimes when you're looking for one thing, you find something else. And so in doing this little research project on Jay Harbaugh, I did scratch my head, and I did wonder, geez, what happened to Tyrone Wheatley? Because in that program I just looked through, Jim started off with Tyrone Wheatley as his running backs coach. And for those of you who don't know, Tyrone Wheatley sits on the Mount Rushmore of great Michigan football running backs. So ideally, you would want him in there as your running backs coach. And before him, it was Fred Jackson. And online, what was interesting is I saw that according to what's on the M Gold Blue website, it looks like Fred Jackson is still involved with the program. And Fred Jackson coached the running backs my entire time in Ann Arbor. He coached Anthony Thomas. He coached Chris Perry. He coached Mike Hart. And I think Rich Rod and Brady Hoke kept them on. And even before I got to Ann Arbor, he coached, I believe, Tyrone Wheatley and those guys. So anyway, so there's a long Mount Rushmore of Michigan running backs, and I think I left Tyrone Wheatley off. No, I left Jamie Morris off the list in my video about the running backs group. But in any case, so it turned out that Tyrone Wheatley was on the staff in 2015 and 2016, and he left the program after that 2016 season. I don't know why. I believe he went down to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he has, so I don't know if it was some sort of friction with Jimmy, as there was with Greg Madison, and he went down to Jacksonville, and Tyrone has resurfaced, and he's now the head coach in the MEAC for Morgan State University, which is an HBCU. And the MEAC, for those of you who don't know, that's the biggest athletic conference for the HBCUs, the Mideastern Athletic Conference. So in that conference, you have teams like Howard University and Hampton University and North Carolina A&T and Morgan State University. And by the way, I think Morgan State and Grambling were the first football games that I ever attended. My dad took us to that game in New York City when I was little. So the Morgan State Bears versus the Grambling Tigers. And so Tyrone Wheatley is the head coach there now. And on his staff are Derek Alexander, who went to Michigan, and also Will Carr, who also went to Michigan and played for the Maize and Blue. So I thought that was interesting. And in an article I'm going to leave in the description box below, Tyrone Wheatley is quoted as saying, "This is our Michigan." So he's going to try to build something there. So that's very interesting to me. Tyrone is from Inkster, Michigan, which for those of you from Ann Arbor, or for those of you who are from or spent time in southeastern Michigan, you know that Inkster is right there, I believe, near Detroit Metro Airport. But for those of you not from the area or who have never been there, that's right near Metro Airport. So he was a local kid. So he left and vacated that running backs coach spot, and I think Jay moved in just after that. But then the other question I asked myself was, Tyrone's kid, Tyrone Wheatley Jr., signed with Michigan when Tyrone signed on with Jimmy. And then I asked myself, okay, well, what happened to Tyrone Wheatley Jr.? Because he was a tall kid with tremendous upside. And I did some digging there. And so shortly after Tyrone Wheatley Sr. left Ann Arbor, Tyrone Wheatley Jr. also left Ann Arbor. And surprisingly, Tyrone Wheatley Jr. is a Buffalo kid, just like me. He went to Canisius, which is a private school on Delaware Avenue. So he's a Buffalo kid. So how about that? But Tyrone Wheatley Jr. transferred from our Maize and Blue to Stony Brook, of all schools, which is on Long Island. But it's in the FCS. And again, Tyrone Wheatley Jr. was a tall kid with a lot of upside. And even though his father left, which may have had something to do with him leaving, it's surprising that he would leave our Maize and Blue to go play for Stony Brook, of all places. I mean, it's his life. He has his reasons for doing so. But it makes you wonder why. But do you know who was coaching him for his first 2 years in the tight ends group? It was Jay Harbaugh. The whole purpose for this video. I don't know what that means. I don't know if there was some sort of backstory there. He was playing under Jake Butt, and Zach Gentry was on the roster at that time. I didn't see Sean McCune in my in the program I just read through for you all, but it seemed like there was plenty of opportunity for Tyrone Wheatley Jr. to eventually get on the field. I think he suffered an injury, but he decided to transfer out. So that's my video on whether or not Harbaugh nepotism is hurting our Michigan football program and what happened to the Wheatleys. Please let me know what you think in the comment section below. Gary, thank you for this topic. It gave us a short detour from what I was doing, but it's a compelling topic nonetheless. Please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. Go Blue, and as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.